Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about filtration and crystallization. So these are two different processes. We're going to see the equipment that we need for each, when we'd use each technique, and how they operate. So let's start with filtration. So, filtration is when you want to separate an insoluble solid from a liquid. So what insoluble means it does not dissolve. So let's have a look at an example. So here I have a beaker, and in that beaker I have a mixture of sand and water. So my sand is my insoluble solid because sand does not dissolve in water. So to be able to separate the water from the sand, I'm going to use filtration, which is a really simple process. All that I need is a beaker, a funnel, and in the funnel goes some filter paper. So filter paper has these tiny little pores in that allow certain things to flow through, but larger insoluble things it does not allow to flow through. So all you need to do is get your mixture of your insoluble solid and liquid, and you put it through there. Now, all of the insoluble solid is going to stay in the filter paper because it's too big to fit through, whereas the liquid will drip through and collect at the bottom. So you've beautifully managed to separate the insoluble solid from the liquid. Now, this only works for insoluble solids. If we have a soluble solid, we have to use a different process called crystallization. Crystallization, yeah. So, if, let's say, this was salty water and sand, the salty water, because the salt is dissolved in the water, it would go straight through the filter paper because it's broken up and dissolved in solution. So instead we need to do a process called crystallization. So crystallization is how you separate a soluble solid from a solution. So a really common example that we could look at would just be if I had a beaker containing salty water. So sodium chloride dissolved in water, salty water. My salt is my substance which is soluble, meaning it dissolves. Right, so this time, instead of using a funnel, what you need to do is you need to use the following equipment. So right here, I have my Bunsen burner. That's what's going to provide the heat because we need to evaporate that water. Here we just have a tripod. And on the tripod, we'll have a gauze. And on there, we have an evaporating dish. You may also have heard this being called an evaporating basin before as well. So what you need to do is you need to get that salty water, or whatever your soluble solid is, you need to get that, and you put it into your evaporating basin and you start to heat it. What will happen is the water will evaporate and it will leave crystals of our salt behind. That's why it's called crystallization, because behind will be left loads of salt crystals. So finally, once we've done that, if you want to dry it even further, you could use a bit of equipment called a desiccator, which is specially designed to remove even more of the water to leave us our nice crystals of salt. Now we've separated it. So quick recap, filtration is used to separate an insoluble solid from a liquid. All you need to do is put it through a filter paper in a funnel. The insoluble solid gets left behind and the liquid goes through. For crystallization is to separate a soluble solid from a solution. That means it can dissolve. All you need to do is put it in an evaporating dish, heat it up, the water evaporates and leaves crystals of your substance behind. For further drying, you put it in a desiccator. Thank you for listening.